Hello Mark, I'm Brian. I'm going to read chapter 11 and chapter 12. 10 words in context. In the space provided, write the letter of the meaning closest to that of each bold-faced word. Use the context of the sentences to help you figure out each word's meaning. Blatant. Scott's smoking is blatant. Not only does he light up everywhere, but his clothes smell of smoke and his fingers are stained with nicotine. The company's disregard of the environment is blatant. It makes no effort to stop polluting coastal waters with garbage. Blight. Nothing has hurt our country more than the blight of drugs. There are two ways of looking at TV: as a blight that dulls the mind or as a valuable source of information. Contrive. My 8-year-old son could write a book titled 101 Ways I Have Contrived to Stay Up Past My Bedtime. Jill has to contrive a way to get a day off from work for her friend's wedding. She's already used up her vacation time. The typesetter accidentally garbled the newspaper story, giving the reader only a mixed-up article. The company had garbled the bike's assembly instructions so badly that we were constantly confused about which step to do next. Gaunt. Abraham Lincoln's beard made his gaunt face look fuller. Sharon's eating disorder, called anorexia nervosa, has made her so gaunt that she looks like a walking skeleton. Gloat. The coach told his team, "There's only one thing worse than a sore loser, and a mean that's a mean winner. Don't gloat." Neil's sister always tattles on him and then gloats when he's punished, saying "I told you so." Immac- Immaculate. It's amazing that while Caroline always appears immaculate, her apartment often seems very dirty. Don't expect a child to come home from a birthday party with immaculate clothing. Children usually manage to get as much birthday cake on their clothing as in their mouth. Pla- Plagiarism. When the author saw a movie with the same plot as one of her novels, she sued for plagiarism. The teacher warned his students that using an author's exact words as one's own is plagiarism. Larry is so honest that he has qualms about telling little white lies. For instance, it bothers him to say he likes a friend's new haircut when he really doesn't. After hiding Laurie's bike as an April Fool's joke, I began to have qualms. What if she thought it was stolen and called the police? When I broke my sister's stereo, she retaliated by cutting the cord of my Sony Walkman earphones. When Ron refused to pay his little sister for washing his car, she retaliated by washing it again, with its windows open. Matching words with definitions. Following are definitions of the 10 words. Clearly write or print each word next to its definition. The sentences above and on the previous page will help you decide on the meaning of each word. An uneasy feeling about how right or proper a particular action is qualm. To mix up or confuse, as a story or message scramble is garble. To feel or express delight or self-satisfaction only spitefully is gloat. Something that weakens, damages, or destroys is blight. And using someone else's writings or ideas as one's own is plagiarism. To plan cleverly, think up, is contrive. To return an injury for an injury. Pay back means retaliate. Very obvious, often offensively so, is blatant. Perfectly clean is immaculate. And thin and bony means garbled. Caution: do not go any further until you are sure the above answers are correct. Then you can use the definitions to help you in the following practices. Your goal is eventually to know the words well enough so that you don't need to check the definitions at all. Sentence check 1. Using the answer line provided, complete each item below with the correct word from the box. Use each word once. An immaculate house may be a sign that someone has nothing better to do than clean. Child abuse is an awful blight on the physical and the mental health of our youth. My aunt refuses to drive Mr. Elton to bingo because he gloats so much when he wins, which is often. The F's and D's on my brother's report card are blatant evidence of how little he has studied this term. Emilius still hopes to contrive a way to get Rita to go out with him, even though she's refused him 4 times. When my friend Jamie left a message with my little brother, inviting me to go to the mall, he garbled it so badly that the message I got was, "Jamie wants you to play ball." Every time the Hatfields harmed the McCoys would retaliate, so the feud went on for years. Rescued after being lost at sea for 9 days, the men were terribly gaunt, but they put on weight rapidly. My parents said it is foolish to give spare change to panhandlers, but I always feel a qualm when I walk by them and give nothing. Mark Twain joked that charges of plagiarism were ridiculous because no one can be completely original. He wrote, "We mortals can't create, we can only copy." Note: now check your answers to these questions by turning to page 178. Going over the answers carefully will help you prepare for the next 2 practices, for which answers are not given. Sentence check 2. Using the answer lines provided, complete each item below with 2 words from the box. Use each word once. The living room looks immaculate except for a lump under the carpet. And a blatant sign that my son had taken a shortcut in cleaning up. After the bully struck him, Jules wanted to retaliate by throwing a rock, but he had qualms about doing anything so dangerous. The little girl was so gaunt after her illness that her parents carefully contrived fattening meals that were sure to arouse her appetite. "At least I know you aren't guilty of plagiarism," said my teacher. "Nobody else would have garbled the report so badly that it's impossible to follow. Willie is a blight on our school. Not only does he start fights with opposing players on the basketball court, but he also gloats after he's benched, as if he's proud of causing such turmoil. In fact, although he's a great player, the coach is pondering kicking him off the team." Final check. A cruel teacher. Here is a final opportunity for you to strengthen your knowledge of the 10 words. First, read the following selection carefully. Then fill in each blank with a word from the box at the top of the previous page. Context clues will help you figure out which word goes in which blank. Use each word once. It has been 20 years since I was in Mr. Brill's 10th grade biology class, but I still get nervous thinking about it. Mr. Brill was a tall, gaunt man who resembled the skeleton at the back of the room. His meanness was blatant. For his most difficult questions, he would call on the shyest kids, those most vulnerable to the pain of embarrassment, and when they nervously garbled their answers, he would gloat, as if their poor performance were a personal victory for him. The discomfort of some of his victims was almost tangible, nearly as solid as the wooden pointer which he sometimes loudly slammed across his desk just to shock us. He seemed to contrive situations just to make us miserable. For example, if our fingernails were not immaculate, we were sent out of class, as if we needed clean hands to dissect a frog. One time I worked extremely hard on a paper for class, but he accused me of plagiarism. He said I must have copied it because I was too dumb to write anything that good. Without a qualm, he gave me an F, which ruined my average and demoralized me for the rest of the year. All of us students would imagine ways to get even with him, but we were too afraid to retaliate. Why a teacher like that was allowed to continue teaching was an enigma to us, one I still have not figured out. In all the years since, I've never met a person who was such a blight on the teaching profession. Enter your scores above and in a vocabulary performance chart on the inside back cover of the book. Chapter 12. 10-word parts in context. Figure out the meanings of the following 10 words parts by looking closely and carefully at the context in which they appear. Then, in the space provided, write the letter of the meaning closest to that of each word part. Teachers often find it difficult to motivate students to learn eagerly. The TV history series fascinated viewers with such details as a 17th-century English children's hospital that gave each child 2 gallons of beer per week. Helen Keller wrote a touching autobiography titled "The Story of My Life." Biology is the science of living things, both plant and animal. In 2001, American theater critics acclaimed The Producers, which won 12 Tony Awards, as the best musical of the year. The exclamation point emphasizes passionate, sudden, and surprised outcries such as "Ah!" and "That hurts." The final word in many prayers is "Amen", which means "May it be so." "Ooh! Ah!" the crowd exclaimed, enjoying the spectacular 5-minute finale that closed the 4th of July fireworks display. Gymnasts must be extremely flexible so that they can bend their bodies into many positions. When When they enter church, Catholics genuflect, that is, they bend on one knee as a sign of reverence. The burglar forcibly entered the home by breaking the kitchen window. The children made a high wall of pressed snow to fortify themselves against a snowball's attack by the kids across the street. "We have done all that is humanly possible to save your grandmother's life," said the doctor. A resident of the shelter for the homeless complained, "The treatment here is not human. We want to be treated like people, not objects." Mike just became a father, so he is taking 6-month paternity leave to help care for the baby. Patriotism was so strong that soldiers willingly risked their lives to defend their fatherland. My grandfather is only semi-retired. My grandfather is only semi-retired. He works part-time as a plumber. I use semi-sweet chocolate in my frosting to keep it from being too bitter or too sweet. Everyone at the fair looked skyward in horror as the colorful hot air balloon exploded. The children tried walking to school backward, but gave up before even reaching the end of their block. Matching word parts with definitions. Following are definitions of the 10 word parts. Clearly write or print each word part next to its definition. The sentences above and on the previous page will help you decide on the meaning of each word part. Bend, partly, half, life, of living things. Father, cause to become, in the direction of, toward, call, cry out. Strong, person, having to do with people, and caution. Do not go any further until you are sure the above answers are correct. Then you can use the definitions to help you in the following practices. Your goal is eventually to know the word parts well enough so that you don't need to check the definitions at all. Sentence check 1. Using the answer line provided. Complete each italicized word in the sentences below with the correct word part from the box. Use each word part once. Little Jesse loudly that his father was the smartest man on the block. A rhythm is a cycle of periodic changes in life, such as daily changes in body temperature. The jury found the disturbed young man, who had shot his father, guilty of. After a cold, rainy weekend of camping, the Boy Scouts were relieved to head. My mother was so that she never once bent the rule and let me stay out past curfew. The candidate's speech in favor of reduced military spending made a powerful impression on me. Uncle Ken was in a room in the hospital. The other man in the room had also suffered a heart attack. There were only 2 in the last session of the talent contest, and both were country singers. Bishop Desmond Tutu of South Africa received the Nobel Peace Prize for his efforts to bring justice to his country's people. In 1961, administrators of New York's Museum of Modern Art were to learn that for weeks a painting had been displayed upside down. Note: Now check your answers to these questions by turning to page 178. Going over the answers carefully will help you prepare for the next 2 practices. for which answers are not given. Sentence check 2. Using the answers line provided, complete each italicized word in the sentences below with the correct word part from the box. Use each word part once. I looked down and watched the doctor tap my knee to see if it was normal. My supervisor, Mr. Kane, is he the rules in a fatherly way, firmly but kindly. In addition, my co-workers are all very amiable, making for a very friendly atmosphere. After the accident, my brother was unconscious for several hours. Around midnight, he became fully alert and mobile enough to walk out of the hospital on his own. When the teacher asked students to write an autobiography, she meant the life story but Harry wrote the life story of Tarzan, his pet snake. In 1863, Abraham Lincoln issued freeing the freeing the slaves, but it would be almost 100 years after his announcement before real efforts were made to black people into society's mainstream. Final check. It's never too late. Here is a final opportunity for you to strengthen your knowledge of the 10 word parts. First read the First read the following selection carefully. Then complete each italicized word in the parentheses below with a word from the box at the top of the previous page. Context clues will help you figure out which word part goes in which blank. Use each word part once. I almost fell out of my chair last night when my father I quit my job today. I'm going to college. He realizes that people may think it eccentric to start school at his age, but he's willing to appear odd because he's tired of work in the factory. He wants a job that requires more skill and training. Both of my grandparents died when Dad was a child, so he and his brothers were forced to quit school early to work. Dad finished high school at night. Now he will venture working only part-time in order to himself further. He still isn't sure what his major will be, but he was always liked science. He definitely he definitely wants to take a course because all living things interest him. He would like to focus in a field that benefits such as physical therapy, where he could help rehabilitate people with certain infirmities. He's also thinking about nursing. Most men of his generation think of nursing as women's work. So Dad's interest in this field shows me he is more in his thinking than I ever realized. Whatever his choice, he is looking forward to classes with great zeal. I know that when he is schooling, no one will be producer of him than I already am. Enter your scores above and in the vocabulary performance chart on the inside back cover of the book. Okay, I'm going to read chapter 11 again. 10 words in context. In the space provided, write the letter of the meaning closest to that of each bold-faced word. Use the context of the sentences to help you figure out each word's meaning. Blatant. Scott's smoking is blatant. Not only does he light up everywhere, but his clothes smell of smoke and his fingers are stained with nicotine. The company's disregard of the environment is blatant. It makes no effort to stop polluting coastal waters with garbage. Blight. Nothing has hurt our country more than the blight of drugs. There are two ways of looking at TV. As a blight that dulls the mind or as valuable source of information. My 8-year-old son could write a book titled 101 Ways I Have Contrived to Stay Up Past My Bedtime. Jill has to contrive a way to get a day off from work for her friend's wedding. She's already used up her vacation time. Garble. The typesetter accidentally garbled the newspaper story, giving the reader only a mixed-up article. The company had garbled the bike's assembly instructions so badly that we were constantly confused about which step to do next. Gaunt. Abraham Lincoln's beard made his gaunt face look fuller. Sharon's eating disorder, called anorexia nervosa, had made her so gaunt that she looks like a walking skeleton. Gloat. The coach told his team, "There's only one thing worse than a sore loser, and that's a mean winner. Don't gloat." Neil's sister always tattles on him and then gloats when he's punished, saying, "I told you so." Immaculate. It's amazing that while Caroline always appears immaculate, her apartment often seems very dirty. Don't expect a child to come home from a birthday party with immaculate clothing. Children usually manage to get as much birthday cake on their clothing as in their mouth. Plagiarism. When the author saw a movie with the same plot as one of her novels, she sued for plagiarism. The teacher warned her students that using an author's exact words as one's own is plagiarism. Qualm. Larry is so honest that he has qualms about telling little white lies. For instance, it bothers him to say he likes a friend's new haircut when he really doesn't. After hiding Laurie's bike as an April Fool's joke, I began to have qualms. What if she thought it was stolen and called the police? Retaliate. When I broke my sister's stereo, she retaliated by cutting the cord off my Sony Walkman earphones. When Ron refused to pay his little sister for washing his car, she retaliated by washing it again, with its windows open. Matching words with definitions. Following are definitions of the 10 words. Clearly write or print each word next to its definition. The sentences above and on the previous page will help you decide on the meaning of each word. An uneasy feeling about how right or proper a particular action is qualm. To mix up or confuse as a story or message, scramble means garble. To feel or express delight or self-satisfaction, often spitefully, is gloat. Something that weakens, damages, or destroys means flight. Using someone else's writings or ideas as one's own is plagiarism. To plan cleverly, think up, is contrived. To return an injury for an injury, pay back, means retaliate. Very obvious, often offensively so, means blatant. Perfectly clean means immaculate. Thin and bony means garble. Caution: do not go any further until you are sure the above answers are correct. Then you can use the definitions to help you in the following practices. Your goal is eventually to know the words well enough so that you don't need to check the definitions at all. Sentence check 1. Using the answer line provided, complete each item below with the correct word from the box. Use each word once. An immaculate house may be a sign that someone has nothing better to do than clean. Child abuse is an awful blight on the physical and mental health of our youth. My aunt refuses to drive Mr. Elson to bingo because because he gloats so much when he wins, which is often. The F's and D's on my brother's report card are blatant evidence of how little he has studied this term. Emilio still hopes to contrive a way to get Rita to go out with him, even though she's refused him 4 times. When my friend Jamie left a message with my little brother, inviting me to go to the mall, he garbled it so badly that the message I got was, "Jamie wants you to go play ball." Every time the Hatfields harmed the McCoys, the McCoys would retaliate would retaliate, so the feud went on for years. Rescued after being lost at sea for 9 days, the men were terribly gaunt. The men were terribly gaunt, but they put on weight rapidly. My parents say it is foolish to give spare change to panhandlers, but I always feel a qualm when I walk by them and give nothing. Mark Twain jokes that charges charges of plagiarism were ridiculous because no one can be completely original, he wrote. We mortals can't create, we can only copy. Okay, I finished my reading. Thank you, Mark.